face of Nuneaton's townscape was to change forever with the demolition of two grand and ornate Methodist churches in the 1960s. Their glory days had passed and were no longer suitable or required for continued worship. Occupying the corner of Stratford Street and Abbey Street was the Wesleyan Reformed Church. This was the second church to be built on this site. The original, seating 400 parishioners, was opened on Sunday the 16th of March 1873. Due to poor design and construction, it was replaced through a very generous donation from local businessman, philanthropist and staunch Methodist Reginald Stanley. Taking 4 years to build, its doors were opened on the 26th of April 1891, on the centenary of John Wesley's death. It then had seating for 800 worshippers, a balcony, 2 new organs, and a spire that dominated the skyline for 72 years. Its fate was sealed in September 1963, when it was reduced to rubble by the demolition team. The name of Reginald Stanley will forever be associated with the prosperity and appearance of Nuneaton, referred to as the Great Man for all his benevolent work that had greatly benefited the town.
My name is Reginald Stanley. I was born on the 2nd of May 1838 in Hale, Cornwall, the son of Jacob Stanley, a Wesleyan preacher. As a young man, I travelled to America seeking my fortune in the Montana Gold Rush. And helped to establish the town of Helena. At the age of 27, I returned to England, investing my capital in a brickworks, recently purchased by my brother and brother-in-law in Nuneaton. Establishing Stanley Brothers, and later owning collieries and engineering works. Never losing my Wesleyan roots, I was able to reinvest some of my fortune into the establishment of Methodist churches in various districts of the town of Nuneaton.
The second church to be swept away by redevelopment was the primitive Methodist church at the junction of Edward Street and Queen's Road. Quoted as being a modern adaptation of a Gothic structure, the foundation stone was laid by R. Stanley Esquire, J.P., and opened 1 year later on the 8th of July 1897. A gold and silver plated key had been specially made and presented to Mr. Stanley to officially open the church, but unfortunately he was unable to attend, and this honour was performed by his nephew Dr. Broadbent. The church and incorporated schoolrooms were used extensively for the various services, and amateur theatrical productions were performed on the permanent stage. It had served its congregations faithfully over the decades, until, on Friday the 10th of March 1967, it too would be erased from the familiar street scene. A plan was put forward to preserve and relocate the beautiful stained glass rose window, but it was found to be damaged and beyond repair. As local history records the passing of these two churches, so a new chapter is about to be written. With the completion of a new and modern Methodist church in Abbey Street, it was to be the salvation for the communities in and around Nuneaton, who had witnessed their chapels and churches gradually closing due to a shortage of finance and diminishing congregations. The opening and dedication service took place on Saturday, the 15th of January 1966, under the name of St John's. It was renamed Nuneaton Methodist Church in 2014 and has become a centre of worship for the area. A venue for many varied activities, and a place where friends can meet for a chat over coffee and cake in comfortable surroundings. The proceeds from these activities go some way to help in the daily running of the church and in supporting local deserving causes. Childhood memories of attending the many churches and chapels in the town and surrounding areas are still very clear in the minds of the churchgoers, as a number of these are pleased to recall.
My name then was Eileen Copperwheat, and I belonged to Stockyford Methodist Chapel. We always called it chapel. For some reason, I don't know, but it was always chapel, never church. And I went there when I was about 7, I think, and started off in the Sunday school with Mr. Dunning as superintendent, and it was very, very busy. It was full. The schoolroom was full, and we used to always have to have a star card stamped every morning and afternoon, because we used to have to go twice a day, twice every Sunday. And it was a good beginning for us. You know, we learnt a lot, and Mr. Dunning was absolutely wonderful. He used to tell a different story every time, and you kind of remember stories when you're talking to the grandchildren and such like. From the Sunday school, you moved up into the Bible study classes, which were held in the church, and we used to start at the back, and then 2 or 3 pews in between, and then another class, and then another class. And then my class was Emma Burdett, and I was there till I was married. Oh, and there was a youth club as well, which we used to go to on a Monday and a Wednesday every week. We used to walk down 3 times every Sunday. And my friend and I said, I don't think we want to learn anniversary hymns anymore. We thought we were too big. Well, we decided not to go in. We walked down as normal and stopped outside the church and decided we weren't going in. And I looked round and my mother was walking behind me, and I didn't know. That was quite funny. Well, it weren't at the time, but it was a shock to me to think that you got found out. But you know, it was, you will be at Sunday school. We weren't never forced to go. We enjoyed going, and we were happy. There were good times, very happy times. And of course, my sister, who's younger than me, my mother, you will take her with you, because you didn't want your sister with you, did you? You will take her with you. And of course, she followed me, and we were always in Sunday school together. So, yeah. And anniversary times was lovely, because we sat on all these platforms, and we used to rush to get the best seats, as we thought, at the front. And everybody had new clothes, you know. One time in the year when everybody had a new frock or whatever. And Chris Cross used to teach us all the hymns, and he had his baton, and he was good. and we always used to sing away, and it used to be absolutely crowded. We used to stand outside on anniversary days, and they used to have benches all up the aisles as well to accommodate all the congregation, because it was so full. Such a happy place it was. It really was.
My name's Owen Stewart, and my first recollections of this area are when the family moved from the northeast in 1944. Along with other miners, my father came down and we started going to Arley Methodist Church. Arley Methodist Church actually was built and given to the community of Arley for worship by the private mine owners of Arley Colliery. But my recollections were a fairly large Sunday school, which was in those days, and anniversaries where recitations were done and solos were sung, and a very good and thriving youth club. We had 2 table tennis teams that both played in the Nuneaton League, but we also formed a Methodist table tennis league of our own with the churches round the circuit, and there were about 8 teams of all the small churches had a team in the Methodist table tennis league. So some very happy times were had at Arley. Basically a small church, but in those days a thriving one. Things were slightly different in that the Sunday evening service tended to be the main service of the day, and the earlier part of the day was still a service but more of a Sunday school time. Again, thriving Sunday schools with trips perhaps annually to places like Wicksteed Park for the Sunday school outings where you'd get at least a couple of coaches going, and plenty of youth club activities.
My name's Graham Harper. I started at Attleborough in 1938. When I was 7 years old. I didn't want to go to Sunday school, but my mother insisted I did and dragged me up there. It was built for a start by Hinckley Circuit. It was a tin built place, plus all the locals knew it as the Tin Chapel. If you asked for the Methodist Church, a few people used to scratch their heads. Where's that? And then somebody would say, oh, that's the Tin Chapel. So that's how it was fondly known as for, well, I think right up to today by people who live in Attleborough and know Attleborough. The church itself has gone through changes. When it was first built, all the benches were unique in the sense that you could sit and face the pulpit. Then if you wanted, you could stand up, swing the back of your pew and face the other way. Unfortunately, they're all gone. And there used to be concerts put on. There used to be pantomimes put on by a well-known character, Norman Painting. When he was a young man at college, he used to write his own pantomimes, and we put them on at Attleborough. The heating for the church was a big stove with a rail round it, and there was a story, well, my mother told this story. There was one lady who, it was a very stormy night and raining, and she was sitting by this stove, and she took her stockings off and hung them over the rail to dry. There was some really characters at the time. When we used to be able to shift the benches on a Saturday night, the church provided us with a gramophone player. We used to go in there, the lads used to shift the benches, stack them up, and we used to have dances and games on a Sunday night. We've got to remember there was no television then. We enjoyed ourselves making our own entertainment in that chapel. They were great days, they were. Very good. But there were some great times, and it is up to a certain point a great pity that it has closed. But as with a lot of churches, the number of people attending dwindled, and as it came, it unfortunately had to close. But I know I've left there before it closed. But I had fond memories of Atborough.
My name is Margaret Merrill, and I attended Chilvers-Coton Methodist Church. Chilvers-Coton Methodist Church holds many memories for me, both happy and sad, but mostly happy. There have been 3 Methodist churches in Coton over the years. The first one faced Coton Road and was built in 1804. The church grew, and in 1904 a bigger church was built facing Henry Street. This was destroyed in 1942, the night of the Nuneaton Blitz. Only the small outbuilding was left standing, and the people worshipped there until the new church was built in 1958. The new church was very modern and well designed for its day, all on one level, and one large room with the sanctuary at one end and a stage at the other. This could be divided into 2 rooms or left as one big room, depending what it was being used for. The sanctuary was a very special place with 3 beautiful stained glass windows. When the sun caught the windows, the reflection from the stained glass reflected on the walls, and the atmosphere was very spiritual. Back in the 80s and 90s there was a big Sunday school, and the sermons were very special, with 3 services on Sermon Sunday. There was rows and rows of children singing their hearts out and really enjoying themselves. This was followed by tea and games before they went home, tired but happy. This was a very happy time and continued until our older members either passed on or their health started to fail, and the younger people seemed to have different things to do on a Sunday, and membership of the church began to fall, and it became obvious that the church could not carry on much longer. Before Coton closed its doors as a church for the last time, we celebrated its bicentenary, 200 years of Methodism in Chilvers-Coton. The final service at Chilvers-Coton Methodist Church took place on Sunday the 31st of August 2008 at 4 p.m. Words cannot express the sadness felt at the end of this service, the end of an era.
My name's Judith Lavis, and I'm from Ridge Lane Methodist Church. I've been there since about 1972, playing the organ, doing Sunday school. In the beginning, the Methodist Church started with like-minded people in Ridge Lane Village who began holding religious meetings in their homes. Their numbers grew until it was no longer practical to hold services in this way. People put their hands in their pockets and took their jackets off and built a meeting house in the middle of the village. This housed an ever-growing number of worshippers. Apart from